And again, not sure how much fun realistically some of these teams are going to be able to capture, knowing that this is their final 3 lobby opportunity. You have to be in that top 15 or else your FNCS is over.
Yeah, things just got real, right? The difficulty bar jumping a significant amount. If you didn't do it in your first 3 games out of the upper bracket, well, obviously this is it. Playtime's over. It's down to the wire. For those that just have their last chances now, a redemption opportunity here as we clean the slate essentially. And even then, for the first game here, pressure couldn't be more real for these opponents here.
And just look at the diversity spreading across the map currently. Some teams choosing to shift into drops that they hadn't originally chosen. The real question I'm wondering is how studied some of these switched up routes actually are for a good portion of our lobby here. If they have made changes to their initial drop. And a handful of teams also looking to get the benefits. Some coaching opportunities coming in at the last minute, I know. Pilot and Jack, coached by Hen and Vano over from EU. Those guys staying up real late to try and help out a couple of friends, see if they can get that qual online.
Yeah, it's part of the fun of the Fortnite community. You definitely see professional players band together, mix things up, put their knowledge to the test, right? It's one of the fun parts about being fully invested in. Well, let's take a look at this fight here. This is the first time we actually get to watch this fight early on from the perspective of Crackley and Joe. I like what's starting to go down right here. Crackley's going to initiate the battle, feeling much more confident. He's got a good amount of builds as well. He's going to get the better half of the exchange here with the first tags going in to his favor.
Pix and Stacky definitely under a fair amount of pressure right now. Crackley, Joe, seemingly better positioning for the time being. Joe might be opting to look for a little bit more materials before he chooses to try and rejoin this engagement. Crackley now gonna go layer up, rejoin with Joe. But again, it's really just about how long can you extend these engagements if you only have 5 builds. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you push this other duo off of your drop, so that way you can not only gather whatever resources they'd managed to take away from you in that instance, but get that nice elimination damage online too.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking more like, you just played 3 games and clearly top 25 was hard to achieve being contested, right? Like, now that you have to get top 15, what makes you think it's going to go any better should you take these early game battles, right? Especially if you're Crackley and Joe. So I want to see adjustments being made here. Like, this is the final chances now. And for a top 15, you actually have to do pretty good in both games, at least 2 of the 3, in my opinion, in order to be up towards the top.
Yeah, and for Pilot and Jack, this is no romantic stroll on the beach side. It's Aaron and Chance looking to play spoiler here for Pilot and Jack. Chance actually going to get chased with the launch pad now, refusing to let Pilot escape for free. This is going to be a little bit of a time sink, though, depending on how long it takes for Chance to actually catch up to Pilot. He's gone quite a ways from his initial landing spot, but again, when teams are all contesting each other, this is likely just Chance and Aaron trying to set a tone for how they expect this early game fight to actually break down. And they've made it all the way to the Marigold. That's quite a long rotate at this point just to try and follow up on Pilot. Now Aaron gonna look to provide some additional shots here. Shield's getting incredibly low for Pilot. One more shot. That's all it's gonna take. And yeah, that's gonna be Aaron getting credit with that secondary elimination there. A little bit tragic since we just mentioned, or since I just mentioned, Pilot and Jack, you know, they've got some of EU's best minds trying to help them out, but hey, just gotta shake it off and go again next.
Yeah, I'm more surprised they didn't come across another team that entire time. You know, normally you find some other resistance on a long chase like that, and that'll, you know, deter the teams from really committing and maybe making a second or separate decision. But GG's nonetheless. Here we have a fight that already broke out, played its course. Rokane and Revise are going to be the winners of one, but Shadow and Walkers now want a piece of this as they're coming in, sitting on the sidelines now. And this is one of those things too, right? Some teams are coming in with a fresh mentality where, you know, Rokane and Revise, they already played their hand, had a little bit of time to reset, recalibrate. So anything can truly happen in these next 3 games.
It's also interesting to know, Rokane and Revise seemingly adjusting their drop strategy as well, likely because they wanted to try and challenge Walkers and Shadow for the forecast tower. But instead, seems as though that might just go in favor of Walkers and Shadow based on how they're able to box up around that structure. Same mentality here for Creon and Ignale. So we've got a couple of teams with established forecasts now online. Definitely going to be a massive help just having that guaranteed visual of all future zones for the duration of this game. Because again, with only 3 lobbies to work with, MDF, getting off to a hot start in the first one, that could be all it takes to solidify your place in that top 15.
Yeah, definitely. I think the momentum's going to really determine a lot for some teams here today. Vorteca Sigma sitting still for the time being as they consider the loot they're sitting on not worth abandoning just yet. Other teams still listening nearby. A little late to the rotate. Maybe honestly interfering on what would have been their second elimination pickup. Bryson Chubbs also joining here as we jump into the lower bracket. The back 3 games here of the day. Fresh lobby, fresh roster here. 25 have already moved on, solidified their grand final spots.
And things can kind of work both ways too. For those teams that already got to participate in the upper bracket for those 3 matches earlier on today, you want to think they've got a little bit of warm-up at least involved. But for the other half of this lobby, players, teams like Encrypted and Ducky forced to wait on the sidelines until it's their chance to shine. And they know they only have those very limited 15 spots to try and work their way into. It can definitely be tough, both for the teams that have already been playing. You want to make sure that your mental isn't too heavily impacted by not finding yourself in that top 25, because again, you can't really expect things to always go perfectly. But Dragon here caught up by Braids, but it's actually Braids who's going to be forced to try and back out this narrow hallway. Dragon, really good control inside of the Lavish Lair.
This is interesting. Dragon and Chris went from, you know, being contested against Clicks and Epic Whale, and now they have Visuals and Braze deciding to kind of step into their territory a little early here in this first game. These are all teams that are familiar with, of course, the format on the day, coming fresh out of the last 3. They're clearly not performing good enough to make it to grand finals just yet. Tahi and Sentin in that same conversation as well. And we see some life from them here today.
Well, one thing that's certainly bound to get them started off with a decent mid-game is the fact that they're looking to confirm this cash currently. Definitely not the only teams stuck with engagements, though. Raze, nice knock onto Flexi. That's going to be a full-piece finish. 3 eliminations now here for Raze and Higher as they keep their charge, pushing forward. They want Flexi's teammate, Haji, doing what he can to try and escape. Just barely managing to get the slip to Raze and Higher for the time being. But again, Haji won't be able to get knocked just yet.
Spotted him. Oh my gosh, and a clean tag right there. I wonder if Higher and Raze are feeling like keying might be the solution to their game. Get it in and get out. Or if these eliminations just land on their lap. Either way, it's looking pretty good for them right now as they have plenty of spoils to choose from here. A lot of old builds to chill out in as well as the zone has continued to favor them. Asian Jeff and Oliver OG looking pretty good as well as they secure themselves a cashway here at the railway. Zone couldn't be better for them either. They can just continue to move out here shortly afterwards. Good spot for prime surge tags here for the time being.
Asian Jeff and Oliver probably don't want to be peeking from the same wall, though, just in case. We have seen how devastating one Reaper sniper headshot can be for a duo. But again, I'm right there with you. Definitely like the mentality there. They got the cash, they've got materials and resources. All they need now is to just get those surge tags online. And being up on a point in elevation, there are the Reckless Railways, where you know you're going to have a lot of foot traffic going around that area. Should be a little bit easier for them to come by that damage, but definitely a bit of a development here for Oliver OG and Asian Jeff. Two separate duos in the direct vicinity to them, but not...
Man, we knew they wanted to fight, right? But I didn't think they were going to jump on a box like this, especially this soon in the game. So G-Money and Diego clearly were already in the fight with the team. Oliver OG and Asian Jeff try to time the entrance here. And I mean, they're here for sure, but now they force themselves into a bit of a stalemate where, as we know, anything can happen. One false move and all of a sudden this duo's on your backs, right? And then things just go really south from there. So Asian Jeff and Oliver OG not taking a more dominant position, maybe from the top down, I'm a little concerned about. But here they go. They are likely to start getting a move on here.
Good approach from Oliver to apply some pressure onto Vilox from above. Asian Jeff as well, looking for some shots from a little bit of a spaced out distance, but Asian Jeff will again fall back to their low ground builds. Him and Oliver had established earlier on, but not every single one of these boxes belongs to them. Asian Jeff knows that as well. He's mostly trying to control things off this left-hand side of these pre-builds. Vilox as well. I was talking about a couple of duos in the area, but Vilox all by his lonesome. Diego plays as well on the hunt here. As Walker's in shadow. Strolling next to some old bases. Definitely wary of the fact that there's bound to be some players possibly lurking in the bushes. So they're gonna opt for the low ground approach here. Might as well use the natural terrain to avoid taking shots.
Yeah, no teams in sight either. They're gonna have a good time getting to their next positioning. Jump on over to the recently spawned Rift Island and have the Hispanic boys up top. Krizix and Dragonell. There's a team here. This is not a completely free Rift Island, or actually they might just be below them, so they have this entirety to themselves at the moment.
It's definitely loot that Krizix and Dragon need too, by the looks of things. They're not completely horrible as far as their loot is concerned, but the capture point is gonna provide some nice little goodies that they could definitely utilize. Also gonna bring Krizix up towards that 6 small shield potions. If he opts for them, might just be Dragon's responsibility to carry those, given the Flowberry Fizz. Krizix would prefer to take in hand here. Macwood, Blake. Again, another team seemingly struggling. Hard to take these long-range fights right now for Macwood. Just does not have a whole lot of ammunition to work with.
Yeah, this is a tough spot to be in right here. I mean, a team like this needs a weapons cache or something. They need that train to come by. They got to get moving. This is a bad spot to be in, especially if you're, Macwood and Blake in this situation where, Blake's just coming off a down bad moment of the last couple games, so he's trying to play catch up here. This is a sign of desperation, going into old builds, hoping to find even maybe some leftover bodies or something like that, but there's just nothing for them to work with here just yet.
You can tell that Blake and Macwood are definitely contemplating where their next method of approach should be, because again, if you only have 20 medium ammo and hardly any shotgun shells to work with, yeah, you're just not going to be able to survive this mid game, much less get surge tag damage that you would need. You don't want to find yourself getting pressured out by the rest of the lobby either. Slightly better notes, though, for TK and Bacon. They've got a good overview right now. You can definitely tell Creep and Hades, one team at least that's nearby, but Creep, Hades not exactly giving any opening, so TK is gonna opt to just shoot at some wood builds a little bit further north from his current position.
Also a team worn down here. 60 bullets left for his rifle. Looking pretty tough. We're seeing the starts of teams that will have to take a fight for one reason or another. Meanwhile, Chubbs and Bryce continue to base up here on the backside. They've wasted a lot of time here, and it is time to go. Out comes the double edits. They should be crash crashing here soon. They got the effects of the fizz, and there they go off to the races. Blake and Macwood are going to be right behind them, but we already know that they don't really even have ammunition to, you know, for leisure fire here. And those are the little setbacks there, the little opportunities that you can see that having a rough start to your game, having a bad loot route kind of takes its course, takes effect.
But Bryce and Chubbs getting so split up there since Bryce didn't catch that initial crash pad footing. So unfortunate. Hopefully he's able to reconvene with Chubbs without too many problems in between. But as for Ponder and Vargas, they're just stuck sitting on top of the box that Fishy and Beast are currently situated in. But again, you look to aggress from above. Teams recognize this desperation almost. And now Ponder and Vargas, they're trying to just outlast this surge damage. But for how much longer can they realistically afford to give up so many of their resources? So now it's going to be a full key in into the box. Fishy and Beast, though, ample prepared for it. Zero issues, just another couple of eliminations to pile to the tally count.
I'm just shaking my head. That was unfortunate. They had so many heals. They had so many different ways they could have played that. Ammunition to play slightly longer range, put a little more pressure, go from different sides, Flowberry Fizz, like, but instead they just opted for the ram into the wall strategy. And that's just so unfortunate. Look how quickly the surge cut off as well. Just a couple players had to go down. So many questions, but you live, you learn. Game one concludes for them. We continue on here. The zone's already moving. This is the first of it. It's coming right back south into the hands of Blake, Macwood, some of those other shambles teams. Gets to tune in with Scented, who's already made his way to the zone here. No Tahi as well. Barely above the surge. This is the team that just hasn't found their footing. Haven't seen anything good come out of it. It's just a matter of time, likely, before he gets backed up.
Scented wants to find some shots, but as long as Bacon and TK are this close by, probably recognizing the fact that this is likely a solo they're dealing with in front of them, but Scented still doing his best to try and hold his ground. Depending on how TK and Bacon actually want to make the approach here. But now Scented, he's got that surge take damage breaking into his shields. Might end up having to... No, fortunately going to be bailed out by some players getting a limb, so will find himself just above that surge damage threshold. But things are definitely still looking a little bit too dicey. And Scented likely wanting to just wait for TK and Bacon to make their rotational approach first. Because as a solo, you never want to be in front of the duo. And Justin wishing that his duo could back him up here, but Moo also on the retreat with only 3 HP, no heals. Takes out a crash pad though, just to stop another team from looking for a rotates that might be following up behind him.
I'm just thinking, like, we saw the zones on the other side. He was really close to it, but he came back. What did your teammate have? What did he tell you? What kind of information did you just gather for you to come back here? I hope there's heals, because otherwise this is going to be a little sketchy. Well, here it is. Everyone's moved out. It's a grapple hook. And it's a grapple hook. All right. That's what you got to work with. 3 HP and a grapple blade here. And it seems to work out pretty well so far. Can he get in a cone or something to protect himself? Of course not. G for move.
I mean, when you're operating with getting sneezed on HP and finding yourself being elimed, very similar circumstances right now for Scented, as he's doing his best to utilize this bush for a little bit of extra coverage. Fortunately enough for him, still has at least one shield potion that he can expend, but those 2 shield fish already ate up. Is now Scented trying to get a little bit further ahead of things, but he has to key this team in their box, and it's Sigma and Vorteca. Vorteca, though, eating a massive chunk of damage. Scented, though, doing what he can. He needs to break into these boxes. Oh, just not enough. Sigma turns it around, no problem. And Scented's play of desperation, not going to work out for him.
It was looking so good until it wasn't. Now Bryson Chubb's also in the same dire situation right here. 2v2 fight breaking out below them. They have options to pick from. It's just a matter of time here. They go for the first wall that's weakened. They edit in a pump fake, but nothing connects there. The timing just a little bit off. Bryson Chubbs get taken out there to the pressure. And now the zone starts to move too, so there's a world of players on some late rotates here. We already knew that there was a good amount of damage that had to take its toll here before things settled down. Walkers and Shadow find themselves in that same situation as well. They do win their fight, but Shadow at 1 HP has to find a moment to heal here. He will, but he loses Walkers already as they try to make their way on in. Tough.
At least Shadow still has 2 more medkits to operate with, even if he doesn't have anything for those shields. He's at least going to try to build up side of this cliff face for the time being. The fact that he even made it across the body of water was insane, and yeah, just no more luck remains as Raze and higher.
They must have a lot of eliminations. They are still going, and they're alive. They're together. They're not like a solo, so they haven't been punished for all the teams they fought so far. I'm curious to see where WCJ, Raze, and higher are. This could be their game that separates them from the pack and allows them to go straight to grand finals here.
Seems like Higher and Raze maybe taking note of that performance out of Reet Ritual earlier on, and
seriously,
confidence is key. They've been taking these aggressive fights and coming out on top. Right now, up top though, gonna be Sigma, just continuing to tarp out on the high ground.
Questionable.
It's a really early investment of all of his hard materials, that's for sure.
Very, very early for them to do this. More often than not, you'll see a team just fight you because you put all this space between you and your duo mate too soon, too early. And that's exactly what happens before I even get to set the stage, set the conversation up. And now Plur and Slumcho might actually be okay now because they didn't commit, right? They didn't start this whole thing. It didn't cost them that much. And now they have to sit so many layers above the opponents that they might be untouchable for quite some time.
They really just stole Sigma's hype project out from underneath him.
Yeah.
And now TK, opposite end of things, at the bottom. Big shot though onto Vorteca. That's a nice elimination refresh that TK just managed to find, but might be a short-lived victory here. TK trying to throw up walls for his life. Krizik's doing everything he can to force his way into TK's box, but finally TK managing to create just a little bit of space, gets the small shield potion online, and now with a decent amount of builds, he's going to continue to tarp through these mid-ground layers. Finally gets a chance to check behind him, see if there's anybody else he could look for another possible refresh opportunity. Keep in mind, 4 points per elimination. It can stack up in these endgame moments.
Yeah, it was a crazy elimination. Picks up 1,500 builds off that body right there. Raze and higher, we talked about likely our Elam leaders here in the game so far. They're at 7 right now. And you can see that the mats are starting to run thin. This is where we got to see, you know, how much have they learned in high tier, big lobby competitive action. What do they do when their backs are against the wall? How do they play as a duo here in these final moments? They find a tag, get one. That's huge. Get two. Can they get the third? This is for the tournament run right here. Win conditions are in front of them. This is going to allow them to stretch it out. Oh, but there was a player there. Hire didn't see him lurking, staring at the med kit. That is the difference between like 10th and 5th or maybe even better placements. So unfortunate, but what a great game either way.
Even better still, though, is the fact that high ground has completely belonged to Plur and Slumcho. Rest of the lobby, zero opportunities to check upwards. No one trying to challenge for height. Instead, Ignali, Creon, trying to do their best to maintain a little bit of low ground control. Golden gonna jump out in front of Ignali here. But Ignali, he's just trying to utilize this final build that belongs to Golden. Big refresh, though, with an elimination onto Golden. Also got credit for an elimination onto Cash a little bit earlier on, but Plur, Slumcho, they just want the finish. They want to start things off with a bang here.
This is pretty insane too, because they have like 6 med kits between the two of them, so they're not going for the heal off. They're going to finish things up, clean up house, and just like that, they take the first victory royale with what was honestly a executed great high ground retake into a victory royale. So well played for them, recognizing that the team that was up there doing it before was vulnerable indeed, and they took full advantage of that.
Yeah, it was almost a little bit absurd to see Sigma just committing so much of his hard material. But again, this Height project, Slumcho, Slam, as soon as they overtook Height from Sigma and Vorteca, they did an excellent job at controlling the rest of the lobby's movements. Everyone just trying to do what they can to wiggle around all these older builds on the low ground. But again, how far can you really escape with the likes of Slam and Slumcho staring over you and just tearing apart those builds?
And remember, top 15 is what matters now. So a win, absolutely incredible, massive. With 3 games, you're not fully safe, but you are so very close. You still have to do a little bit more work in order to secure those points and continue to stay in that top 15. But what a great way to start off for them.
Yeah, I'm sure they've got zero complaints about how that first game broke down, but maybe the analysts have something to say for about these other teams in the lobby, so we're going to head on over back to them, get their thoughts.